NBC Sports. Brings you the sixth game of the 1968 World Series. The Detroit Tigers versus the St. Louis Cardinals.
Brought to you by Chrysler Canada Limited and the Dodge, Plymouth, Roots, and Simca dealers who sell the quality engineered cars and trucks by Chrysler. By the more than 1,350 branches in Canada of the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. And by Gillette, makers of new Right Guard antiperspirant in the silver can.
Once again, Busch Memorial Stadium, the gateway arch to the west, and once again the weatherman has become an important factor in the World Series. Showers off and on this morning. This game is going to be delayed 10 minutes. Neither team took batting or fielding practice. The tarp has just been removed from the field, and you can see the St. Louis ground crew now getting the diamond ready. So we will have a delay of 10 minutes, but Game 6 of the World Series is definitely on. Hi, everybody. I'm Curt Gowdy of NBC Sports. This is Harry Caray, the voice of the St. Louis Cardinals, and down around the stadium and roaming around wherever he may be will be Tony Kubek, also of NBC. And a hypodermic needle has now become the big story of the sixth game. Denny McLain, the 31-game winner of the Tigers, was supposed to be done in this series because of a sore shoulder. But yesterday morning, Dr. Russell Wright, the team physician of the Detroit Tigers, injected a combination of xylocaine, that's a form of Novocaine, to ease the pain, and cortisone to ease the inflammation. The injection was made into McLain's right shoulder, and after the injection, he went to the sidelines, did some throwing, and announced that his arm felt much better, that he wanted to pitch again. And so the Tigers bring him in there today. He'll be going for the Tigers. Ray Washburn will be going for the St. Louis Cardinals. And of course, Harry Caray, the Cardinals can still win it. They're a game up by winning today. And the Tigers can prolong it. It can go to Game 7 tomorrow. And if it does go to Game 7, Lolich and Gibson are already set to be the starting pitchers in that game.
That is true, and they're both unbeaten in the World Series so far. And the St. Louis Cardinals, you know, Curt, in 46 when they beat the Boston Red Sox, the series went 7 games. In 64 when they beat the Yankees and went 7. Last year when they beat the Red Sox and went 7. And so they've had an affinity with 7-game World Series. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it doesn't turn out that way again this year.
Well, this series has had the same pattern as last year. The Cardinals won, then they lost to Lombard. This year they lost to Lolich. Then they came back and won 2 more to go 3-1 up. And then Lolich, like Lombard last year, came back to keep it going. It's been an almost the same pattern with one pitcher stopping the Cardinals from winning it.
You know, the fascinating story to me, Curt, is Denny McLain. So interesting about the hypodermic needle, keeping a great pitcher in the contest. But here's McLain now, who went to his manager yesterday, I understand, after pitching for 10 minutes in a workout in Detroit, and said, Mayo, give me that baseball. I know I can win for you tomorrow. Well, he's won for him all year long, and he's going to get his wish, and he's going to be out there this afternoon.
You know, actually, Harry, not much had been talked about his sore shoulder, but he had this sore arm during the month of September, and he'd taken 4 or 5 x-ray treatments to keep it under control. They had hesitated to use the cortisone shot in his shoulder because they say it temporarily tightens the shoulder up. But, of course, they wanted him in here if at all possible, so they went ahead and gave him the injection yesterday.
You know, he has a great incentive today, too, Curt, because no pitcher in World Series competition since the World Series became a best 4 out of 7, has ever lost 3. And the irony of the greatest winner in some 37 years in the American League being the biggest loser in World Series competition, well, it would be so ironical, almost defies any understanding at all.
Well, of course, we're already talking about stars and goats of the series, but we'll get back to that later. Right now, let's get down to the stands to Tony Kubek.
Thank you, Curt and Harry. Down here we've got the manager of the Detroit Tigers, manager Mayo Smith. Mayo, you've had more big decisions in this World Series thus far than any manager I have seen. You've done so well. What about the big decision, today's pitcher? When did you know McLain would be able to pitch?
Well, this morning out here at the clubhouse, I brought Earl and Denny into my office, and Denny threw 15 minutes over in Detroit yesterday and threw the ball very well, and he said his arm felt real good, and I wanted to make sure that it still felt good this morning, and Earl still has a slight soreness in his leg, and we decided to go with Denny, and Earl will be in the bullpen available.
Mayo, you know the shot that Denny got in his shoulder. I don't know exactly medically what it was, but there's no chance. I imagine you wouldn't pitch him if there was a chance of being some permanent damage.
Yes, this is true. I would never take that chance, and of course, this was a cortisone shot, and in 48 hours, why it has the effect of whether it does any good or whether it doesn't. But Denny says that his arm feels better than it has in 2 months, so we're going with him today.
Mayo, talking about big decisions, you had a big one the other day in the 5th game with Lolich pitching 3-2. You got Mickey up there and turned out well, but you let Lolich hit. I bet there were a lot of things running through your mind with that one.
Oh, yes, of course. Don Wirt was the leadoff hitter, and of course, if Don had gone on, I would have pinch hit for Mickey. But with one man out, the 8th and 9th place hitters are going to come up again because we've got, after the 7th inning, we got 2 more shots at him. And Mickey, he was pitching so well that I just figured we can catch up within the next 2 times at bat. So, fortunately, as you say, Mickey got a humpback single to right field and started the rally, and of course, we went on to win it.
Mayo, Kaline has been just phenomenal in this series. He impressed me so much the other day against Bob Gibson. I've never seen him quite hang in there the way he did and really battled.
Well, as you know, Tony, this is Al's first World Series after 16 seasons, and if there's ever a pro, he is, and I don't think that I could wish for a better situation with the bases loaded over there in Monday and having Al as a hitter. So he came through, and he's kept us alive, and I'm very happy for him, as I know all his teammates are.
Mayo, thank you so much. We're looking forward to a victory for you here in St. Louis in the 6th game, and hope we see you for the 7th. I know you hope that same thing.
You said it, Tony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayo Smith. Now let's go back upstairs to Curt and Harry.
Mayo Smith was talking about Kaline. He's been the star of the Tigers. He leads them in average and runs batted in. He's fielded very well. McCullough's done a great job at second base. And, of course, over in the Cardinals, Harry, it's been Brock again and Bob Gibson. Cepeda leads in RBI. They've been the standout so far to the fans around the country.
I think a surprising development, Curt, is the fact that in the segment of the series in Detroit, the St. Louis Cardinals actually hit more home runs than the Detroit Tigers, who are known for their power. Of course, here, the Tigers have out-homered the Cardinals 3-1. The Redbirds never did hit many home runs in this expansive ballpark. It's going to be I have to say about Mayo Smith that he has certainly shown intestinal fortitude. The move of getting Kaline into the lineup has certainly paid off. Stanley's done a fine job for him at shortstop. He has shown the insides of an outstanding manager.
That's right. Now, Harry, how about you? This is your home park. You've done the Cardinal games here for 24 years. How about you taking the nation fans around Busch Memorial Stadium and pointing out some of the highlights?
All right, fine, Curt. Let's take a look at it. Down the left field line, 330 feet. The ballpark, of course, is sold out. There'll be 54,000 plus here, as there have been for every game of the series in St. Louis. Down the alleys, it's 386 in left center. It is 414 to the center field wall. You notice the big, wide scoreboard out there. In right center, it's 386, the same as in left center. And down the right field line, identically to the left field line, 330 feet. There are no tricks at all except in that right field corner. Sometimes that ball takes a funny hop and rolls around in that gate area. The pitchers are warming up in spots where they usually do during the course of the season, although the bullpens during the World Series are out beyond the wall in left center and right center. Now the pitchers today. First, though, let's go down to the field or wherever Tony Kubek might be.
Thank you, Harry Caray. Thank you, Curt Gowdy. We've got Bill Freehand, the catcher for the Detroit Tigers, with us down here. Bill, what about McLain? The first 2 times out, he has not had good stuff, has he?
No, for sure he hasn't been pitching like he did in the regular season, and he's coming back, as you know, with sort of a short notice type setup. There was question about whether his arm was sound, and I think Denny's about the only one that can answer those questions, and the only place he can answer them is out in the mound today, and we're just going to have to see, because I'll tell you what, a good pitching performance right today would really pick our ball club up, because it's something we need right now.
Let's talk about Ray Washburn. You batted against him the last time. He didn't last the full game. What kind of pitcher is Ray Washburn? What are you going to be looking for off Ray?
Well, he's a tough pitcher. He misses his pitches up good. He's got a pretty good fastball, and he's got a good slow curve and a slider, too. He can't really look for anything because he'll throw a breaking ball, too, when he's behind or something like that. So, shoot, I don't know what I've been looking for, but I'm just going to try to make a little contact.
Well, you know, the last ball game you played, now, this is just my personal opinion. It looked like you might have been swinging the bat a little bit better. You've been getting a lot of advice, I know, from all different angles, and everybody's been telling you you're doing this wrong and that. What are you going to try and do today? Just relax?
Tony, I was trying to believe in some of your mistakes yesterday. There's no use lingering on them. No use worrying about what's behind you. Think about what's ahead of you, because right now we're not in too bad a situation. We can win this ballgame. We're right even with these people again, and if I worry too much about what happened yesterday, it's not going to do me too much good. So I'm just going to be positive as I can, and maybe I can help the club with my bat in the last couple of games. That's what I'm hoping for.
Bill Freehand, we hope you're right, and we hope the Tigers can take it to 7. Good for baseball, good for everybody concerned. Thank you so much.
Okay, Tony, thank you.
Now let's go back upstairs to Curt and Harry.
The pitchers have been getting ready for the last 5 minutes or so. And the big story, of course, Denny McLain, 24 years old, a 31-game winner during the course of the regular season. You see him in slow motion. Anybody that can win 31 games, you know is outstanding. He hasn't been that outstanding in the World Series, and he himself is more aware of that than anybody else. He has a fine fastball, has a wide assortment of pitches, a great competitor. And just the story of his approaching his manager and wanting so badly to get the baseball, to win a big ball game for his Tigers, I think reflects that as well as anything. Across the way is Ray Washburn. He's 30 years old. The right-hander had his best season in the major leagues this past year when he won 14 and lost 8. He won the third game of the series 7-3, needed relief help from Joe Horner, the southpaw. He is basically an off-speed pitcher now. Until he hurt his arm about 5-6 years ago, he was outstandingly fast. As a result of the arm problem, he had to learn off-speed pitches, and he has learned them well. Now the lineups, Curt.
All right, let's take the visitors first. The Detroit Tigers, leading off at second base, will be Dick McCullough. At shortstop, Mickey Stanley. Al Kaline is batting third in right field. Norm Cash will be the cleanup man at first base. Willie Horton in left field, batting number 5. Jim Northrup in center field, batting number 6. Bill Freehand is the catcher, hitting 7th. Don Wirt, the third baseman, batting 8th. And Denny McLain is the pitcher today for the Tigers. There's the lineup. Hope you'll keep score along with us. Now the homestanding Cardinals. Lou Brock leading off in left field. Curt Flood in center field, batting number 2. Roger Maris in right field, batting 3rd. Orlando Cepeda is the cleanup man at first base. Tim McCarver is catching and hitting 5th. Mike Shannon at third base, batting 6th. Julian Javier is the second baseman, batting 7th. Dal Maxville is the shortstop, batting 8th. And Ray Washburn is the pitcher today for St. Louis. For those that have joined us late, we've had off and on showers all morning. This game is being delayed. It'll probably scheduled to start at 1 o'clock here St. Louis time. We'll start at 1:10. The grounds crew has just put the infield in order. Neither team took batting or fielding practice. The tarp has been on. We may have a few soft spots in the outfield, but altogether, unless it rains some more, the diamond should be in good shape. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go down to the field.
Here are the lineups for Game 6 of the 1968 World Series. First, the Detroit Tigers. Here is the manager of the Tigers, number 10, Mayo Smith. Batting first and playing second base, number 3, Dick McCullough. Batting second and playing shortstop, number 24, Mickey Stanley. Batting third and playing right field, number 6, Al Kaline. Batting fourth and playing first base, number 25, Norm Cash. Batting fifth and playing left field, number 23, Willie Horton. Batting sixth and playing center field, number 5, Jim Northrup. Batting seventh and catching, number 11, Bill Freehand. Batting eighth and playing third base, number 8, Don Wirt. Batting ninth and pitching, number 17, Denny McLain, who is warming up in the bullpen. And here are the remaining coaches and players of the Detroit Tigers. Now for the St. Louis Cardinals. Here is manager Red Changing. Batting first and playing left field, number 20, Lou Brock. Batting second and playing center field, number 21, Curt Flood. Batting third and playing right field, number 9, Roger Maris. Batting fourth and playing first base, number 30, Orlando Cepeda. Batting fifth and catching, number 15, Tim McCarver. Batting sixth and playing third base, number 18, Mike Shannon. Batting seventh and playing second base, number 25, Julian Javier. Batting eighth and playing shortstop, number 27, Dal Maxwell. Batting ninth and pitching, number 44, Ray Washburn, who is warming up in the bullpen. And here are the remaining coaches and players of the St. Louis Cardinals. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem, which will be played by Dick Renna's band and will be sung by Miss Lydia Hunter, a graduate student majoring in music at Washington University.
Oh,
The sixth game of the 1968 World Series is being brought to you from St. Louis as the Tigers meet the Cardinals. In identification, this is the NBC television network. The umpires meeting at home plate, manager Mayo Smith, and Red Shaney's coming out for the Cardinals. Tom Heller will be behind the plate. Tom Gorman at first, Jim Honeychick at second, Stan Landis at third, Bill Kinnaman umpiring the left field line, and Doug Harvey the right field line. The 6 umpires now have done the complete rotation. Each of them has been at one station during this World Series. The first ball is going to be thrown out by the president of the National League, Warren Giles, who's been the president of the National League since 1951. And his toss goes to Tim McCarver. It'll probably be repeated again, which has been a pattern here for photographic reasons. No? The umpires are taking their positions. The Cardinals will be out of their dugout here in just a second. Denny McLain is still warming up there. The Cardinals. Washburn has come in from the bullpen. And so, we'll see whether the World Series now will be over today or whether it's going to Game 7. And once again, if you joined us late, this game has been delayed. We've had rain off and on, and we still could have more showers. Neither team took batting or fielding practice. The tarp was taken off about 20 minutes to 1 here, St. Louis time. The grounds crew put the diamond in shape. We're waiting for Washburn to come out, and I know you're waiting for the play-by-play in the first 4.5 innings of the outstanding voice of the St. Louis Cardinals, Mr. Harry Caray.
Thank you very much, Curt. Hello again, everybody. The field in fine shape, as Curt mentioned to you, in spite of the rains. The crowd, of course, capacity. Ray Washburn hasn't made his appearance. If the earned run averages of the 2 pitchers in this series to date hold up, we're going to have a free-scoring game. Denny McLain is coming in from the left field corner. His warm-up pitches have been completed. There's Washburn getting a nice hand as he comes out. Naturally, the crowd here, very pro-Cardinals, just as it was very much pro-Tigers in Detroit. And that, of course, is only obvious and natural. Washburn, 30 years old, his best season, 14-8. He pitched a no-hitter, I'm sure all of you will recall, against the San Francisco Giants this past season. He was born in Pasco, Washington, and lives in Kirkland, Washington. A right-hander whose specialty now is off-speed curveball. As a result of having to develop that type of pitching because of a sore arm. His perseverance and determination in the face of injury, many might have tossed in the towel and gone for some other profession, but he stuck to his guns, and here he is appearing in his first World Series as a result. Not actually appearing in his first World Series, but starting in his first World Series. He had been with the Cardinals when they won in '64 and also last year. Dick McAuliffe will be leading it off for the Tigers. McAuliffe has had 6 hits in the series, one of them a home run. His series average is .286. His season's average was .249. This is one of a number of Tiger players who have made a great impression on the St. Louis Cardinals. An aggressive ball player, an aggressive hitter. With one of the most peculiar and unique batting stances that the game is known. Some compare the way he raises his front foot, the way Mel Ott used to bat. The first pitch of the 6th game. Strike a fastball. The outfield is playing McAuliffe to pull. They give him a lot of room, as you notice, in left center. McCarver behind the plate. Strike, another fastball. That fastball moved away from the left-hand hitters. What they call a fastball that runs. Washburn ahead, 2 strikes and nothing. Dick McAuliffe leading off for the Tigers. Struck him out. curve. Now coming up, Mickey Stanley, an outstanding defensive center fielder. In a bold move, has played a fine shortstop. Stanley has had 4 out of 19 in the series, which is a .211 average. He has good power. Fastball swung on. And Maris is waiting for the ball near the track. Stanley hit the ball deep, but out in the right field. Now Al Kaline, one of the all-time great ball players, having a good series with 8 out of 21. A .381 average. He's had 1 homer. He's driven in 4 runs. Strike, a fastball. Washburn's control much better today than it was in the 3rd game of the series, which he pitched. There's Wally Moses coaching at first base for the Tigers, and Tony Cuccinello at 3rd. Fastball low. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 out, nobody on. 6th game of the World Series. Kaline has power everywhere. Fouls one off to the right.
Curt, what he's been doing in this series, Harry, and he's done it most of his life, is he hits the low fastball, tries to go the opposite field with it. Good breaking ball hitter and a good high fastball hitter.
2 strikes and a ball. 2 out, nobody on, 1st inning. Low curve, and he got him swinging. So it is 1-2-3, nothing across. We go to the bottom half of the 1st inning, no score. Back at Busch Memorial Stadium in St. Louis, Lou Brock will be leading it off for St. Louis. He's had an outstanding World Series. Denny McLain on the mound. Look at that record for the season. Earned run average 1.96, 31-6. But he's lost 2 in this World Series, and he is very, very determined not to make a 3.
Now, Harry, if he doesn't look right, I'm sure there'll be immediate action in that Tiger bullpen.
Lou Brock. In each of the last 3 games of the series, Brock has reached base to start the contest. He's hitting .524. 400 for World Series competition. McLain started him off with an off-speed curveball, and Brock was way off stride as he fouled down the 3rd base line. Denny McLain, looking for his first victory in the World Series. Tigers must win in order to prolong the series. Right back to McLain. He'll throw him out easily. So McLain got Brock on a tap back to the mound. That will bring up Curt Flood. It's awfully early to make any observations, Curt, but he does seem to be throwing freer out there.
The problem has been, according to Dr. Wright of the Tigers, that in this series, when he's really tried to cut loose with his fastball, it has hurt. He's had pain out of it and has thrown his control out.
Curt Flood, fastball outside. Flood is hitting an even .300 for the series. He batted .301 for the year. And that's just about how consistent he is. Fastball high. 2 balls, no strikes. Bill Haller of the American League is the plate umpire. He has a brother, Tom, who's caught in the National League for years, now with the Dodgers. Smash right to Stanley. A wicked low-line drive, but Mickey Stanley grabbed it. Roger Maris, who may be playing the final game of his illustrious career today. It'll be the final game if the Cardinals win. The magic numbers are simple. 1 for St. Louis, 2 for Detroit. Pitch low, curveball. Maris in this series has had only 1 out of 12, which is .083. Last year, he had an outstanding series. Denny McLain. Fastball in there. A good high-riding fastball. Caught that outside corner. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 out, nobody on. No score. Bouncing ball. Fine play by Wirt. He's out. Beautiful play by third baseman Don Wirt, who had a leap and throw perfectly. 1, 2, 3, nothing across. At the end of 1 inning, no score. With Curt Gowdy and Tony Kubek, this is Harry Caray. This game is authorized under television rights granted by the Commissioner's Office solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Commissioner of Baseball is prohibited. Norm Cash, hitting .333 in the series. Hit .263 during the season. A power hitter. Slow curve, low.
Washburn's using that slow curve a lot, Harry.
That has become his bread and butter pitch. From a fastball slider pitcher of 5 years ago to an off-speed pitcher now. And he's had more success, as it turns out, with off-speed pitches than he did earlier in his career. There was the fastball inside. As a result of his arm trouble a few years ago, Washburn is not as fast, but the use of off-speed pitches makes now his fastball appear quicker. Missed outside, ball 3. Norm Cash, the only member of the Tigers who has had previous World Series experience, played with the White Sox. There's a strike call. That is in the starting lineup. I'm sure Eddie Matthews was in more than just one. There you have a breakdown on Washburn's record for the year. Slider misses inside, ball 4. The first base runner of the day. Other members of the Tigers who have been in World Series, besides Cash and Matthews, Dick Trzaskowski, utility infielder, and Don McMahon, relief pitcher. Willie Horton. During the season, he walloped 36 home runs. He's hit 1 during this series. Great power. Strike, a fastball. The home run that Horton hit was in this ballpark against Ryle in the second game of the series. As I mentioned earlier, strangely enough, the Cardinals out-homered the Tigers in Detroit, which was a surprise. There's no surprise that the Tigers have out-homered the Cardinals here. Slow curve, foul tip. McCarver may have taken it on a fingertip, but no damage. 2 strikes and nothing on Willie Horton. The outfield plays him straight away and deep. Horton is the kind of hitter that can hit the ball out of the park in any direction.
Let's see if Washburn gives him a breaking pitch in the dirt. Sometimes Willie gets over anxious and chases one.
He gave him a tempting, tantalizing slow curve, low and away, almost exactly where you saw McCarver switch before the pitch, but Horton would have none of that. 2 strikes and a ball. No score. Top of the second. Cash at first base. There's a drive. Flood on the run. Might be between them. It is. Base hit. Cash is going to the wall. Cash might score. Here he comes. He'll make it. Norm Cash scores all the way from first base on Willie Horton's double to left center. Brock, cutting behind Flood, had a chance to cut the ball off. Couldn't quite make it. The Tigers are out in front, 1-0.
Slow outfield, Harry. Any other day, that ball would have scooted through to the fence.
Now Jim Northrup. He's had 3 out of 19. The slow curve. 1 ball, no strikes. 1-0 Detroit, top of the second. During the regular season, Horton hit 21 homers, led the team in runs batted in with 90. The slow curve in there. Jim Northrup, 90 RBIs, 21 homers. Willie Horton at second base, having just driven in the first run. Missed inside with the slider. Washburn in this inning has been behind hitters. In the first inning, he was ahead of them. Horton, a safe lead. Bouncing ball foul. Northrup is played to pull. They give him a lot of room in left center. You notice Flood is a couple of steps shaded towards right. Two balls, 2 strikes. Struck him out on a slow curve. Washburn may have gotten away with a pitch. That ball was high, a slow curve ball up high, just below the letters, but Northrup missed it.
Here's a fellow, Bill Freehan, who's looking for his first series hit, and he's received hundreds of telegrams of tips of what to do about getting his batting average going and how to get a base hit in the World Series. Got a good sense of humor. He has them pasted up all over his locker in the Tiger clubhouse.
Fine competitor, a good catcher, hit .263 during the regular season with 25 homers. He's 0 for 16, and that can't go on much longer. He's too good a hitter for that. 1 ball, no strike. 1 out. Willie Horton at second base. Slow curve low. 2 balls, no strike. Washburn doesn't look as sharp as he has been on other occasions. In his first game of the season that he pitched in this series, he allowed only 3 hits. Misses again, ball 3. Of the 3 hits that he allowed in his previous start, 2 were by Dick McAuliffe, a homer and a single, and Kaline also had a home run against him. Fastball in there. 3 balls and a strike. Freehan glancing at Tony Cuccinello, who on signal from manager Mayo Smith controls the hitter taking the situation. There's Cooch. Line drive, base hit. Horton may score. The ball goes through block. 2-0, Detroit. Freehan's going to try for third. He makes it. A hit, an RBI, and an error. And it was inevitable. You just can't keep getting a hitter of Freehand's ability out that consistently.
Not only an all-star catcher because of his glove work, handling pitchers, but one of the most dangerous bats among the catchers in the major leagues, and he had to come through.
Lou Brock wanted to make a play to the plate, but the ball rolled through his leg. Brock has a strong arm. Doubtful, though, if he could have gotten the Horton, even had he fielded the ball cleanly. Downworth, the third baseman, had 1 out of 11. The infield is in. The fastball is high. 2-0 Tigers in the top of the second. McLain against Washburn. Swung at a slider and he missed it. That evens it, a ball and a strike. Infield in. The curve is low. 2 balls and a strike. It's been a tough inning for Washburn. Activity in the Cardinal bullpen. Ball 3, he's missing with both his fastball and his slow curve. A walk to Cash started this inning. A double by Horton drove him in. After Northrup fan, Freehand got his first hit of the series, driving in the run. 3-2 situation on Don Wirt, who had 12 homers during the regular season and batted .200, driving in 37 runs. A pesky type of hitter, Freehand at third base. He walked him. This is the 6th man now to come up in the inning, Denny McLain. In the Cardinal bullpen, Larry Jasker and Ron Willis. Jasker a left-hander, Willis a right-hander are warming up.
Wonder if the Tigers would put the squeeze on, Harry. This fellow led the American League pitchers this year in sacrifice bunts. He's a good bunter.
We'll keep an eye on Freehand to see if he breaks. The fastball was low. McLain, during the regular season, there's Billy Muffet, the pitching coach, coming out. Batted .162. Averages, batting averages for a pitcher aren't as important as the total number of hits they got. And he had 18 hits, which is a lot for a pitcher. And as Curt mentioned about his ability to bunt, he had 16 sacrifices. It was a sharp confab on the mound, and now we're ready. Bouncing ball. It is foul. And Freehand will return to third base. McLain to the plate and Wirt to first base. 2 runs are in. Detroit's out in front in the 6th game of the World Series. The Tigers must win for there to be a tomorrow so far as the series is concerned. If they do, it'll be Lolich for Detroit, Gibson for St. Louis tomorrow. Infield playing back now. Ground ball might get a double play. Maxfield to Javier to Cepeda. They do. The inning is over with 2 runs, 2 hits, 1 error, 1 left. We go to the bottom of the second. Detroit 2, St. Louis nothing. The 6th game of the 1968 World Series is being brought to you in living color from Busch Memorial Stadium in St. Louis, exclusively on NBC, where America watches more sports than on any other network. Orlando Cepeda. This is 3rd World Series and his best. He's had 2 homers. He's driven in 6 runs. He's had 5 out of 21. The fastball in there is strike call. McLain coming directly over the top. Cross-fired him that time. The count evens, a ball and a strike. The outfield against Cepeda straight away. As I mentioned about Horton, he can hit the ball anywhere. Base hit like a bullet. Cepeda opens the second for the Cardinal, becoming the first base runner against McLain.
Cepeda was talking about the first two games in the series being important to a hitter. If you don't get a hit in those first two games, you start to press. He said, I know what Bill Freehan was going through until this year. It had happened to me. He's been loose in this series.
McCarver, 7 hits in the series, batting .350. Hit .253 during the season. Fastball is in there. There's Dick Sisler, coaching at first base. Joe Schultz at third base for St. Louis. You people in Seattle might take a good look at the Cardinals' third base coach. You'll see a lot of him next year as the manager of the Seattle team of the American League.
That definitely been announced?
No, but I think it's
Bet.
everybody knows that it's going to happen. 2 strikes, no ball. Tim McCarthy from Memphis, Tennessee. Cepeda is a good base runner. Fly ball. Kaline. Good play. No chance for a double play, though. Boy, on a heavy track, he sure got a fine jump on the ball, and that was why he was able to reach it.
I think the whole country has been rooting for Kaline. He's been such an outstanding pro for years, and everybody happy to see him having such a good series. At bat, in the field, on the bases. An all-around player who's always been able to beat you, not just one way, but many ways.
Mike Shannon, the Cardinals' third baseman, hit .266 during the regular season. Led his team in runs batted in with 79. In this series, hitting .286. In his previous 2 World Series, he hit home runs. So far in this one, he hasn't. 1 ball, no strike. Detroit in front 2-0. Cepeda can surprise you with a stolen base. Out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. Many things about Cepeda that you don't realize until you watch him every day, as we've been privileged to. For example, Curt, he's an outstanding defensive first baseman.
He showed that in Detroit in the 5th game with a couple of great stops.
1-1 situation here, and it's a fast double play possibility. Stanley to McAuliffe to Cass. So Shannon hits into a double play to end the inning. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, nobody left. At the end of 2, it's Detroit 2, St. Louis nothing. And now to the ever-roaming Tony Kubek.
Thank you, Harry. And once again, you can see I've caught a break in the stands. An attractive young lady. What is your name, and what does the uniform mean?
My name is Rachel Tal. I'm from Israel. That's the uniform of a policewoman in Israel, from Tel Aviv, Israel. And I'm here for the Israeli festival at the 6th Bar and Fuller department store downtown.
Raquel, nice seeing you. This is your first ball game?
Yes, that's my first ball game that I'm seeing in my life, and I like it very much.
I guess you don't understand, but right now let's go upstairs to Harry and Curt.
Tony, how do you do it? How do you do it? What an assignment. Like to be arrested by her. First pitch is inside to McAuliffe, who fanned his first time at bat. 2-0 Detroit. We're in the 3rd inning. Fastball low. Boy, it's amazing. This fella, even Lou Brock, as fast as he is, has been able to match what he did this past year. Didn't ground into a single double play. 162 game season. Never grounded into a double play. Fastball wide, ball 3. And only 2 the year before, and one of those was his last time at bat.
Washburn's really struggling. He's behind the hitters all the way in the 2nd, again here in the 3rd.
Ball 4. And that is the third pass for Washburn. He has fanned 3. And he has walked 3. Here's Mickey Stanley. Stanley flat out to right in the first inning. He's 4 for 20 now in the series. Hit .259 during the season with 11 homers, and many of them key home runs at one important ball game. There goes McAuliffe. The hit and run was on, and Stanley fouled the pitch off. McAuliffe and Stanley are always a threat on the hit and run because Stanley can handle the bat. McAuliffe has speed. Washburn is usually a control pitcher. This gray afternoon, he's had trouble. Pitch out. Nothing going on. 1 ball, 1 strike. Nobody out, a runner at first. Third inning, 6th game of the World Series. Detroit out in front, 2-0. Boy, there's an acre of ground in left center. Base hit in the left. And the Tigers now have runners at first and second, nobody out, and Al Kaline coming up. This is a situation in which they could certainly build up a comfortable cushion. They have their big hitters coming up with runners on base. The Cardinal bullpen busily engaged again. Kaline fanned in the first inning. The fastball is high. Kaline homered off Washburn earlier in the series. There's a smash, base hit. The run's going to score. Stanley races to third. McAuliffe has scored. It's 3-0 in favor of Detroit. And the St. Louis fans are a little unhappy now. As Billy Muffet comes out, that may be all for Ray Washburn. Al Kaline coming up with his 9th hit of the series, his 5th run batted in. And with Stanley doing nothing at all wrong at shortstop and Al Kaline banging the ball all over, manager Mayo Smith's move has certainly been more than justified.
And Kaline, Harry, now has had at least 1 hit in every game of the series.
There's a break in the action here. We're in the 3rd inning with Detroit out in front, 3-0. Ray Jasper strolls to the mound. Let's stroll down to Tony Kubek.
Thank you, Harry Caray. We're alongside the Cardinal dugout with the Commissioner of Baseball, General William Eckert. General, on Sunday you had one of the toughest decisions of your life, McLain versus Gibson. The rain started falling. What about it?
Tony, it was a tough decision, and the factor involved were to get the best weather information I could and to think of those millions of fans around the country and those good fans in the stadium and what was best for them. Of course, first comes the player's safety on the field, so the best weather information, and we played a game there which many fans enjoyed being Sunday, and that was a prime factor other than the player's safety, and the field was safe.
Mr. Commissioner, I guess when you came out here today and saw the rain falling, you thought, oh, another Sunday, I guess.
Well, the weatherman is good today. I checked with him yesterday and again this morning every 30 minutes, and he said, assures us that we'll have good weather for the rest of the day. At least good playable weather.
General Eckert, nice seeing you again. Think we'll go to 7?
Well, I'm for whatever number the best team wins, whether it's 6-7, whatever.
General Eckert, Mr. Commissioner, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's go back upstairs to Harry and Curt.
All right, Tony. Larry Jaster is 24 years old, went to Michigan State University, born in Midland, Michigan, making his first appearance in this World Series. During the regular season, he won 9, lost 13. His previous World Series experience was one-third of an inning pitched last year against the Boston Red Sox. Jaster in the National League is known as the killer of the Dodgers. In 1966, he shut out the Los Angeles Dodgers 5 times in one season. 5 starts, 5 shutouts. And that's a Dodger team that won a championship. But this is the Detroit Tigers he faces this afternoon. Cash hits his first pitch. Base hit. Another run is in. Kaline racing for third. And the Tigers have a 4-run lead. Cash didn't fool around at all. The very first pitch, they brought the left-hander in to face the left-handed batter. Before Jaster could work on him at all, Cash had drilled a single to center. 4-0. 5 hits now for Detroit already. Still nobody out. Here's Willie Horton. Infield playing back, hoping for a double play. High fastball. Horton drove in the first run in the second inning with a double. The curve is low, ball 2.
Those line drive base hits to the outfield with the rain this morning. The outfield grass is slow. The ball is not rolling very fast out there, and these Tigers are really cartwheeling from first to third. They're going to third every time they can, now from first.
Without too much publicity, that Cash has had a good series. That was his 7th hit and 4th RBI. Ooh, what a cut he had, but he fouled it off. Willie had designs on one up over the Stadium Club on that pitch. Kaline at third, Cash at first. 2 runs are in. Nobody is out yet. I got it, Curt. I'll protect you up here on that foul ball.
You don't have that fish net for this series.
No, I don't know why you fellows don't let me use that. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 4-0, Detroit out in front. Gee, the pattern of this series compared to a year ago is so consistent. The curve is low, ball 3. Now let's see if Cash will go on the 3-2 pitch. There's nobody out. The theory of going in this situation would be to try to stay away from a double play. The theory on not going is so you don't run into a double play on a strikeout. He's not going. Foul back. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Ball players, when we say he sure had a good cut, ball players are more concerned with the type of swing the batter takes than anything else. You can tell whether he's being fooled or not. And Mr. Horton is not being fooled. He's just fouling him off. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Runners first and third. Nobody out. The 5th man to bat in the inning, Al Kaline. At third, Cash at first. The 3-2 pitch. The bases are loaded. A big 3rd inning for Detroit. 2 runs already home. Bases loaded. Nobody out. And here is Jim Northrup. As Curt mentioned, Al Kaline now has hit safely in each game. He's waited 16 years for this thrill, and he is enjoying it to the fullest. Jim Northrup, who hit 2 Grand Slam homers in 1 game earlier this year, and led the major leagues with 4 of them. in 1968.
I think he wound up that week hitting another one and had 3 in 1 week, too, Harry.
Well, they're loaded for him now. There's a drive. It's going to be a grand slam.
Well, he's the grand slam kid, isn't he? It's 3 in 1 week during the season, led the majors, and hits a grand slammer in the World Series.
The first World Series he's ever played in, he gets his specialty. Against the left-hander, a towering home run. And the Tigers lead 8-0. He's the 11th man in World Series history to hit a grand slam. There's Mickey Lulich. Already he's thinking about his assignment tomorrow, I would suppose. Northrup, as you see, a very tickled young man. Willie Horton right behind him.
Gates Brown, Willie Horton hugging him, Billy Muffet at the mound again, and the Cardinals are having pitching problems today.
And Curt, Bob Gibson against Mickey Lulich tomorrow. And the World's Baseball Championship will be decided by one game. A 162-game season. 6 games in the World Series will have produced no result. The final game of the year will decide it all. There's Steve Carlton down in the right field corner. But apparently, it will return to the bullpen. Joe Pepitone of the Yankees hit the last grand slammer, and it was against the Cardinals here in 1964. With the break in the action here, the score, Detroit 8, St. Louis nothing. Where are you, Tony Kubek?
Harry, I'm right down here next to the commissioner's box on the National League side with the president of the National League, Mr. Warren Giles. Mr. Giles, it's early in the ball game yet, but we could be coming back tomorrow.
It looks like we might be back here tomorrow.
This Tiger team has become explosive.
Oh, yeah, the pitching didn't look good at all. It didn't look like they had any stuff, and the Tigers are hitting real good. They're a good hitting ball club. They're a good ball club.
Mr. Giles, they talk about momentum in the series. Should the Tigers go on and win this ball game, you think they'll have the edge going into the 7th game in spite of Bob Gibson?
I don't think anybody has an edge with Gibson pitching. I don't care how many days rest he's had.
You know, they talked about the McLain-Gibson confrontation the other 2 times, but now it's Lulich with 2 wins versus Gibson with 2 wins. That's going to be quite a 7th game.
Right. And Lulich is pitching great ball, I think. Better ball than anybody besides Gibson.
You like the Tigers?
I think they're a good ball club. I don't like them to win. I don't think they'll win. I don't want them to win.
That's what I was trying to get at. You're pulling for the Cardinals, aren't you?
I surely am. Yes, sir. All the way.
Thank you, Mr. Giles. Now
Victory party tomorrow night.
Well, let's see how it turns out. Thank you, Mr. Giles. Now let's go back up to Curt and Harry.
Ron Willis, a right-hander who makes his home in Memphis, Tennessee, is the new pitcher. And Bill Freehand takes the first pitch high. The Tigers have scored 6 runs, and there's still nobody out. Washburn, in his 2 innings, allowed 4 hits and 5 runs. Larry Jaster faced 3 men and allowed 2 hits, 3 runs. Willis misses again. I think you could lip read Willis saying, "I'm all right, I'm all right."
Fans might be wondering, the most runs in an inning in a World Series, that was the famous inning in which the Philadelphia Athletics of Connie Mack came from behind to beat the Cubs back in 1929 in the 7th inning. The A's got 10 runs in that inning. That's been the biggest inning in World Series history.
Bill Freehand, who got his first hit of the series in driving a run in the 2nd inning, takes ball 3 high. 3 balls and no strikes. The St. Louis crowd a little stunned by the all 4s outside by the ferocious Detroit attack here. The Tigers 8 runs on 6 hits so far. This is the 8th man now to bat in the inning. Downward. Strike, the fastball. Fouled it off, strike 2. I don't know whether you could hear it. We did. A leather-lunged fan here has just yelled, all right, now we got him. Downward. Hit 12 homers during the regular season. Curve is low. Word with 1 out of 11. Walked in the second inning. We're in the top of the third. Detroit leads 8-0. Out of play, foul ball. Bill Freehan at first base. 7 men in a row have been on base. 6 of them have scored. Nobody out. Look out. Even up 2-2. Ron Willis, 25-year-old right-hander, 6'2", 185-pounder, sinking fastball and a pretty good curve. Hit him with a pitch ball. 8 men in a row have reached base. Is that a record, Alan?
Well, they could challenge it. That same Philadelphia A's team sent 15 men to the plate in that one big inning, that 7th inning, against the Cubs back in 29. And now here's the 9th man up for the Tigers.
Denny McLain with runners at first and second, and he has an 8-0 lead. Hitting a double play his first time at bat. They expect him to bunt. High fastball right under his chin. Did it hit him? Ball 1. Willis, exceptionally wild out there. Cepeda already towards the plate. Pretty bunt. The only play is first base. Shannon to Javier. The first out of the inning.
That's the bunt to move those men over. Make that third baseman handle the ball.
So now with runners at second and third, Dick McAuliffe, who started this inning with a walk, having a good series. This is his first series. He's had 6 out of 22. A tough, aggressive, left-handed hitter with fine power. And they're going to walk him intentionally to get to the right-hand hitting Mickey Stanley. So McAuliffe is being intentionally passed. The bases loaded. 6 runs already home. Tigers leading 8-0. Mickey Stanley, who singled his first time up in the inning. Comes up with the bases loaded. The infield is playing back, hoping for a double play. The fastball high. Willis is always a pitcher who keeps the ball down. He has a sinker and a curve. He's off on his control today. Strike caught the corner. Stanley from Grand Rapids, Michigan. 26 years old. The bases are jammed. Cepeda up, throwing to the plate. He's out on a force play with McCarver making a one-handed, backhanded grab of the throw. So Freehand was forced at the plate from Cepeda to McCarver. That's 2 out, and here's Al Kaline. He singled and drove in a run earlier in the inning. He now is batting .391 in his first World Series. Another hit. 1 run is in. Another man's going to score. And it's 10-0. An 8-run inning for Detroit. Al Kaline. Second hit of the inning. He now has driven in 3 runs in this inning alone. Now leads in the series with RBIs with 7. And Detroit about to send the World Series into the decisive 7th game tomorrow. It's the 5th hit of the inning. A big blow was a grand slam by Jim Northrup and pitching coach Billy Muffet. Again comes out. And with Cash, the batter, this is the second time in the inning that Cash will be facing a relief pitcher, a different relief pitcher. Jaster was brought in to pitch to him earlier in this inning, and Cash lined a single to center to drive in a run. Now, another new pitcher will be brought in. As the new pitcher, Dick Hughes, comes towards the mound with a break in the action, the score here now is Detroit 10, St. Louis nothing. We pause briefly for station identification. Let's switch to Tony Kubek.
Thank you, Harry. Down here with a couple of young boys. What are your names?
Well, I'm Jean Wheel.
What's your name?
I'm Donald Steele.
What do you do in our school?
Well, see, our principal and our teachers let us out.
They did.
Yeah.
You enjoying the game? I know you're enjoying being on TV, but the Cardinals are down 10-0. Are you happy about that?
No. I see Dick Hughes just got on the mound, and Ron Goes left.
Do you know all the players on this team by name and number and everything else and batting averages?
Almost.
You do? You're a real baseball fan then, aren't you?
Yeah.
You must be. You've got good seats.
Yeah.
Boys, nice talking to you. Maybe the Cardinals can get some runs on the scoreboard.
I sure hope so.
We'll see. Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Bye, Tony.
We'll see you, boys. Now let's go back upstairs to Curt and Harry.
And the lady directly behind Tony and the 2 youngsters was Mrs. Stan Musial, by the way, in your picture a moment ago. Dick Hughes' first pitch is in there, a strike call to Norm Cash. Cash 2 times at bat in the same inning, 2 different pitches that he has faced. There's a long drive, twisting foul, and out of play. Al Kaline's base hit, which was his second of the inning, tied a record held by 13 others for most hits in one inning in World Series play, namely in to wit 2. Dick Hughes' fastball is foul back. Runners at first and third. The fastball is low. This is the 13th man to bat in this inning. Foul back. 2 strikes and a ball.
You know, Harry, coming into this game, the Cardinals had outscored the Tigers in the series 25 runs to 17. Now the Tigers have scored the most runs.
Base hit. Another run is in. A high hopper over Cepeda's head. And Stanley has scored the 9th run of the inning. And Cash has become the 15th man in World Series history, joining out Kaline and 13 others in making 2 hits in 1 inning in World Series play.
The Tigers are now 1 run away from tying an all-time record of 10 runs an inning and 1 batter away from tying the record for 15 men going to the plate.
And here's Willie Horton. Fastball low and outside. Dick Hughes is quite a story, and it shows you how things can change in baseball. A year ago, he was the Cardinals' leading pitcher with 16 victories. This past season, he was rarely used. He was on the disabled list. He had a sore arm. 2 balls, no strikes on Horton. I tell you, if Horton gets on without the runner from third base, Kaline scoring, Jim Northrup, I know, could establish a world's record of 2 grand slammers in 1 inning. Foul back this way. There, we not only needed the net for the baseball, Curt, but for protection. Willie Horton, men at first and third. Tigers leading 11-0. Almost a wild pitch, a good stop by McCarthy. 0-3. I think the crowd is beginning to realize the setting that is possible should Horton walk. And that is Northrup coming up again with the bases loaded. The 3-1 pitch by Hughes. Ground ball right back off his hip. It's going to go for a hit and a run scored.
That ties the World Series record going all the way back to 29 when the A's scored 10 runs in the 7th inning against the Cubs. The Tigers now have scored 10 runs against the Cardinal and are sending their 15th man to the plate to also tie a record.
Horton, a hit off Hughes' hip. And Al Kaline scored that World Series tying run, the 10th run of the inning. Runners at first and second. High drive, the left field block is there. The inning is over. Runs, 7 hits, no errors, 2 left. We go into the bottom of the 3rd. It's Detroit 12, St. Louis nothing.
NBC, truly the World Series network. That's a hotel beyond the ballpark. You see those men up on top? Rather precarious position. If they're watching the World Series, maybe they're doing some maintenance work. Looks like it. But NBC, the World Series network, presents the World Series of Baseball on January 12th of '69, the Super Bowl, the World Series of Pro Football, and next March, the World Series of College Basketball, the NCAA Basketball Championship. Well, McLain's had a long sit in that dugout, and we'll see what that big top of the 3rd with a long wait now has done to him. He's got a few runs to work with.
What an inning. Jim Northrup, a grand slam homer. Al Kaline and Norm Cash, 2 hits in the same inning. Here's Javier to lead it off against Denny McLain. The fly ball will be caught by Kaline. We had 2 men get 2 hits in an inning, Kaline and Cash, and we had 3 men who scored 2 runs in the inning. That could be a record, too. 3 different men scored 2 runs in that inning. McAuliffe, Stanley, and Kaline. Here's Dow Maxville looking for his first hit of the series. McLain's fastball is high. In all World Series history, only 3 men have scored twice in the same inning. And here the Tigers had 3 men in the same inning. 2 balls and a strike. That evens at 2-2. Denny McLain with a 12-0 lead. The Tigers missed the extra point on each touchdown. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Dow Maxville, nothing out of 16 in the series. He and Freehand had identical records before today. All 3. 3 balls, 2 strikes. The Cardinals' biggest inning of the year was 10, by the way, against Cincinnati in a ball game this summer. The fly ball will be caught by Jim Northrup. 2 men are out. McLain's allowed only 1 hit, and that was erased in a double play. Here is Dave Ricketts, utility catcher, coming out as a pinch hitter. Ricketts, 33 years old, takes the first pitch in there. During the season, he was at bat only 22 times, had 3 hits for a 136 average, making his first World Series appearance. Two men are out, 1 ball, 1 strike, 12-0 Detroit. Ricketts, a member of the Cardinals last year, as they won the World Championship, making his first appearance in a World Series game. 2 balls, 2 strikes. McLain. The Cardinals use a 5.5-pound magnesium bat in the on-deck circle, call it a Maggie bat. Base hit for Ricketts. A line single to center. Tell you, the way that ball was flying through the air in the top half of the inning, it would have seemed that maybe the Tigers are using that 5.5-pound bat. 10 runs. Ricketts had appeared in the World Series last year as a pinch hitter. Gets his first hit. Here's Brock. Long drive. Kaline is going to be there. Takes it. Brock lines deep to Kaline. No runs, 1 hit. No errors, 1 left. At the end of 3, Detroit 12, St. Louis nothing. Now covering more ground around shortstop, Tony Kubek.
Thank you, Harry. I'm down here again by the Cardinals dugout with the next Dodger great, Joe Black, great relief pitcher. Joe, I see you walking around with that tape recorder and interviewing people before the game. What are you doing here?
Well, Tony Graham let me come down and represent some Negro newspapers and Negro radio stations. I'm trying to learn how to find out what the ball players are thinking.
You already know that, don't you? You played this game yourself.
Well, after those 10 runs, I wonder.
Joe Black, thank you so much for stopping by. Let's go back upstairs to Curt and Harry.
Bill Freehand will lead it off against a new pitcher, Steve Carlton, the left-hander. Fastball is missed, strike 1. Carlton, during the regular season, 113, lost 11, earned run average 2.95. His pitch, one inning in the series. Slow roller. Shannon in time, got free hand.
He had something on that throw.
He's got a great arm. You know, he's originally an outfielder. I'm sure everybody knows that. And a wonderful transition was made as he became a outstanding third baseman. For the third time in the series in St. Louis, absolute capacity, 54,692. Wirt fouls off the first pitch. Well, looks like 7 again. Wirt pops up. Knoxville. 2 away.
And in 7 last year, Gibson pitching the 7th game with 3 games rest. And Lolich will be pitching with 2 days rest the same way Lombard did last year.
2 men are out. Denny McLain, the batter. Steve Carlton from Miami, Florida. Won't be 24 until December. 1 strike and no ball. McLain had another whiff. 2 strikes, no ball. Denny rolled into a double play in the second. Laid down a sacrifice in the third. Had 18 hits during the regular season, so he can hit. Struck him out. Nothing across. At the end of 3.5 innings, the Tigers 12, St. Louis nothing. Bottom of the 4th. And if you're just joining us for some reason, where you been? It's the Tigers 12, St. Louis nothing. Here's Curt Flood. Fastball high. High again. You know, and I mentioned that the Cardinals scored 10 runs in an inning game earlier this year in Cincinnati. High fly. Kaline on the run. So is McAuliffe. And McAuliffe makes the catch.
There's a boy that's really done a great job in the field. He became an all-star American League shortstop with his bat. They moved him to second. Now he's become an excellent second baseman. He's played very steadily, made 2 brilliant plays in the 5th game, and he's been all over there at second base.
In that game in Cincinnati earlier this year, the Cardinals were trailing 8-0 when they exploded with 10 in the 5th inning and won the game 10-8. The most runs they scored in a game during the season was 11. 1 ball, 1 strike on Roger Maris. He bounced out his first time with Don Wirt making a good play. McLain's allowed only 2 hits. Ground ball, McAuliffe. Whoop! Gets by. Ball may have taken a bad hop. Let's see what it will be. It's ruled a base hit. So it did take a bad hop. Here's Cepeda. That's a 3rd hit off McLain. Cepeda has 1 of them. Maris just got 1 of them. And pinch hitter Dave Ricketts got the other one. He had a cut, but missed. Popped up. That should be easy. Stanley makes the grab. So pay the pop to Mickey Stanley at short. And here's Tim McCarver. Right out his first time. He's hitting .333 in the series. 7 out of 21. Cardinals have had no runners get past first. Only 3 got there. The fastball high. One ball, no strikes, 2 away. 12-0 Detroit, bottom of the 4th. Had a cut and fouled it back. Tim McCarver. That's Shannon waiting to hit next. Line foul. Into the left field corner. 2 strikes on the ball. Roger Maris at first base. Norm Cash not holding him on. Tigers have the big lead. High. The 4 pitchers used by the Cardinals in that 3rd inning tied another World Series record. It's been done 5 times previously, a team using 4 pitchers in 1 inning. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. 12-0 Detroit. Denny McLain. Struck him out. All out, and it's no runs. 1 hit, no errors, 1 left. And at the end of 4 full innings, it remains Detroit 12, St. Louis nothing. Joe DiMaggio will make a 17-day tour of military hospitals in the Pacific along with 3 active players at the close of the season. A trip arranged by the Commissioner of Baseball, William D. Eckert, in cooperation with the Department of Defense and the USO. Outfielder Rick Monday of Oakland, pitchers Ron Klein of the Pirates and Ron Taylor of the Mets will accompany DiMaggio to hospitals in Japan, the Philippines, Okinawa, Guam, and Hawaii. When McLain struck out McCarver on a called 3rd strike, it was his first strikeout of the game, ending that 4th inning, and now McAuliffe. 1 strike, no ball. Carlson's pitch is low. The ball game is in the top of the 5th. McAuliffe coming up for the 4th time. He's walked twice, scored both times. Fanned his first time at bat. Strike call. Vic McAuliffe. Who started that 10-run 3rd inning with a walk. Walked again his 2nd time up in the inning and scored both times. Struck him out on a curveball. Now Mickey Stanley. Scored 2 runs in the 3rd inning. He's had 1 out of 3. Now has hit 5 hits in the series. And 22 times at bat. Strike. Carlson very sharp with a fastball over the inside corner at the knee. The curve is low into the dirt, evens it up, a ball and a strike. Well, it comes down to the 2 unbeaten pitchers. Lolich, who has won 2, Bob Gibson, who has won 2. If the Tigers win and they're leading 12-0. Bouncing ball, Maxwell firing to first. in time. There's the mini portable camera that you see Tony Kubek doing all the interviews in the stands with. Or what won't they invent next? Now Kaline takes a curved strike call.
Just the advancement in the last 10 years here in television and what they've done is almost unbelievable. What'll it be 10 years from now?
Now Kaline, who's had a great day. We're almost hit. Kaline with 2 hits in 1 inning, 2 runs scored, drove in runs with each of his hits, 1 the first hit, 2 the second hit. There she goes! No doubt about it! Home run! Al Kaline, 3rd straight hit. His 2nd home run. He now has driven in 8 runs. So he leads in home runs and in RBIs in the World Series. And in hits. Cepeda has 2 home runs for the Cardinal. And so has Lou Brock. Here now is Cash. Base hit. Kaline now has had 11 hits in 25 times at bat. He has tied Lou Brock of the Cardinal for the most hits in the series. Willie Horton. Tigers on a rampage. Popped up. Maxville. 1 run, 2 hits, no errors, 1 left. We go into the bottom of the 5th with the score. Detroit 13, St. Louis nothing. We're going into the bottom half of the 5th inning. It's 13-0 in favor of the Detroit Tigers. And now moving in to take over the play-by-play, NBC's Game of the Week announcer, my dear and good friend for many years, Curt Gowdy.
Nice job, Harry Caray. Here is Shannon leading off. He hit into a double play his first time. Foul back. As we said before the game, a hypodermic needle has become a big story. In Game 6, Denny McLain injected in the right shoulder yesterday with a combination of xylocaine and cortisone. Strike 2. And after the injection, he threw on the sidelines. The Tiger Stadium announced his right shoulder felt much better. So far, he has shut out the Cardinals with 3 hits. His 0-2 pitch to Shannon. 1-2. Javier's on deck, and then Maxville.
But they used a needle on those bats, too, Curt.
Injected something in those, didn't they? A 1-2 pitch. Struck him out. Strikeout number 2 for McLain. We had a wire from some fan wanting to know if they would give McLain a saliva test after the game. No. Anyway, you can get these ball players on the field. You know, a trainer in a team position is very important in professional sports or any sport. It's been said that a good trainer and doctor can mean 10 or 12 games in a standing, getting an injured player back in the lineup, keeping them healthy. 1 out, nobody on. Javier applied to right his first time. Batting .400 in this series, having another good one. Ball 1 to him. 13-0. The Tigers leading in the last of the 5th. Two and nothing. Denny McLain earned those 31 victories, but his club scored for him all year, too. It scored for him today. A 2-0 pitch. That was caught at third by Don Word, a very steady fielding third baseman. 2 down. Del Maxville, now the only regular player who's appeared in the starting lineup day after day, who is still looking for his first hit. He's 0 for 17. 2 down, bases empty. McLain lays it right in there to him. His curve is outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Foul back. It's 1-2 to Del Maxville. Foul away. One ball, 2 strikes. 2 down, nobody on. Fly ball headed toward the right field corner, and it is a foul ball. Maxwell nearly had his first hit. The weatherman says it's going to be nicer tomorrow. Or will be, unless the Cardinals put on a miracle rally here. That's the pitcher, Carlton, on deck. A 1-2 pitch. Tops it foul. Another fly. That's headed toward the right field corner. Kaline hustling hard. Another great play by Kaline. Same play that he made in Game 2 off the bat of Orlando Cepeda. Kaline's doing it all for the Tigers in this series. 3 up and 3 down at the end of 5. It's Detroit 13 and St. Louis nothing. In the 6th inning, it's Northrup, Freehan, and Wirt for the Tigers. Northrup struck out and hit a grand slammer in the 3rd and flied out also in the 3rd. That was the inning that the Tigers sent 15 men to the plate, and that's a strike to him. Northrup continued his grand slam pattern of the season. He led the majors in grand slammers and clouts one in the series. He sends that one down the left field line foul. 0-2. The 2-strike pitch, low. None of the Cardinal pitchers today have been able to stop the Tigers. Washburn gave up 5 runs, Jasper 3 runs, Willis 2 runs. Hughes pitched to 3rd and got him out. Carlton's given up a run. A 1-2 pitch, foul again, out of play. Tigers still have some ways to go to break the record for most runs in a game in a World Series. 18 runs. The Yankees scored against the Giants in 1936. Line drive, Curt Flood charging it. In front of him, base hit. 12 hits for the Tigers. Bill Freehan, a single to knock in a run, walked and grounded out. Man's hit safely for the Tigers except McCullough, Wirt, and McLain. Curve is high. One ball, no strikes. Now his curve is good that time. 1-1. Steve Carlton from North Miami, Florida. High fly, shallow right. Harris is coming in. Javier gives way to him. One down. Northrup stays at first. Don Wirt will be the batter. He's walked and hit by a pitch ball, popped up and scored a run. He's hitting .091 in the series. Fastball low and away. Curve is inside, a ball. 1-1, or 2-0. There's the man that, unless the Cardinals rallying once again, will be carrying the load for the Cardinals in the 7th game. He won the 7th game in '64. He won the 7th game for the Cardinals last year. Throw to first. The way matters stand now, he'll be opposed tomorrow by Mickey Lolich, with everybody else in the bullpen on both clubs. 3-0. Jim Northrup at first. One down. Right in there to him. The way matters stand now, he'll be opposed tomorrow by Mickey Lolich, with everybody else in the bullpen on both clubs. 3-0. Jim Northrup at first. One down. Right in there to him. 3-2. The Tigers leading 13-0. Playing Wirt over to right. They leave him a big gap at left center. And he hits it foul. Northrup returning to first.
You know, Curt, the talk was that were the series to end today, that Lou Brock of the Cardinals would be the outstanding player and would receive the car that they give. I think now that Al Kaline has certainly moved into serious contention, if not ahead.
And they got him going the wrong way. It's to Cepeda. Cepeda to Maxville. To the pitcher. Hits the runner. And Northrup holds it first, so they lost him in the rundown.
They're calling it interference, Curt.
He interfered, they say. He's out. They'll give the put out to the infielder closest on the play.
Here's the slow motion replay on it. Just Carlton has him picked off. There's Cepeda giving it to Maxville. Running him back the other way. The pitcher, Carlton, now will be on the receiving end. But the toss by Maxville, you see his arms being raised, and that's why the interference was called by first base umpire Tom Gorman.
2 down, nobody on. Wirt. Just a little pop in foul ground that Cepeda's waiting for, and the Tigers are out. No runs. 1 hit, no errors, nobody left. At the end of 5.5, Bob Gibson looking on. The Tigers 13.
You know, Curt, that shot of Bob Gibson in deep meditation. There he is again in that dugout. Naturally, his thoughts already are on tomorrow. He's had a long season, a great season, but he too is just mortal flesh.
He's allowed 1 run in these 2 games. He's won 7 World Series games in a row, an all-time record. Bobby Tolan now is batting for Carlton. We'll have another Cardinal pitcher in this game in the 7th. Bobby Tolan. Ball 1 to him. Lou Brock on deck, and then Curt Flood. Denny McLain pitched a 3-hit shutout so far. Foul back, 1-1. There's Brock. Bobby Tolan is a cousin of the late Eddie Tolan, the gold medal winner in the 100 and 200-meter dashes in the 1932 Olympics. Lives in Los Angeles. He was a star pitcher at high school at Fremont High in Los Angeles. Now he's an outfielder. 1 ball, 2 strikes. McLain, who had control problems in the first game, and the second game just didn't have any stuff. This game has been sharp, getting that ball over. Foul back, pouring that fastball in, using his slow curve as his off-speed pitch. This looks like the McLain that won 31 games. A 1-2 delivery. There's his slow curve and it's popped up, racing over toward the seats as Cash out of play. Right in back of the commissioner's box. Peta had a single in the second. Ricketts a pinch hit single in the third. Maris a bat hop single in the fourth. That's been it so far for St. Louis, and he struck him out. 1 away. 3 strikeouts for McLain. He got a strikeout in the fourth, a strikeout in the fifth, now a strikeout in the sixth. Lou Brock. There's Mickey Lowley, who tomorrow, unless the Cardinals rally, will be pitching with 2 days rest. And he kept the Tigers in this series. That big 5th game in Detroit. After giving up 3 runs in that first inning, he shut them out the rest of the way. A ball. You know, Harry, I don't believe he's pitched with 2 days rest all year, but he should be fresher than Lombard, who had to pitch the last day of the 1967 season to give the Red Sox the pennant. Of course, the Tigers winning easily. None of their staff was under strain there in the month of September.
That's true. He certainly looks fresh enough right there, doesn't he? And strong. A great pairing for tomorrow if it ends this way here today, Curt. You know, he's watching the game on television right now, Curt.
Have a monitor down there, huh? Watch the rerun. A 1-1 pitch. Foul back by Lou Brock.
You know, Curt, those ball players sure love to scout the umpire's work during the game.
Well, as Harry pointed out, Brock or Gibson looked like a shoe-in for the star of the series. Now, Kaline has 11 hits. Brock has 11 hits. Kaline now leads the series in RBIs. Kaline got the big hit in the 7th inning. Day before yesterday in Detroit with the bases loaded. The hit that put the Tigers out in front. He's had 3 hits today and 4 RBIs. Bounding ball to second. Bad hop. And Brock is on his 12th hit. So he leads the series now in base hits. And he has a chance, and even though they're 13 runs behind, he had a chance to break the World Series stolen base record. He tied his own record this year with 7 that he set last year. They're already yelling, go, go.
Yeah, with the Cardinals 13 runs behind, for the St. Louis crowd, they want to at least have the satisfaction of seeing Brock steal that base.
Of course, Bob Gibson and Mickey Lolich will have a shot at that outstanding player record. In there for a strike to Curt Flood, who's lined to short and fly to right. 13-0, the Tigers leading. Cardinals batting last of the 6th. Now let's watch Brock. Foul back. Brock sometimes gets accused by the opposing players of running when he shouldn't be running, when the Cardinals are way ahead or way behind. He says, listen, the best thing I do is steal a base. Why shouldn't I? Does the hitter go up there and try not to hit a home run if that's the best thing he does? He's an offensive player. Foul again out of play. 0-2.
He's given no indication, Curt, that he intends to try to steal. He hasn't taken the daring lead that he usually does.
One out, Lou Brock at first. No balls, 2 strikes to Curt Flood. Flood fouls it back again. Brock again was just holding there. He had his short lead. The trio is Cash, Brock in the middle, and first base umpire Tom Gorman. Line foul into the stands down the right field line. The all-time series record for most base hits is 13, held by Bobby Richardson. Brock has 12 and Kaline has 11. McLain pitching with 2 strikes, and a curveball strikes out Flood. McLain starting to come up with that strikeout pitch. Looks like he's getting easier. He's got a big lead, of course, which is a big help to him. But also that right shoulder of his might be loosening up as this ball game goes along. Roger Maris has grounded out and had a bad hop single. All the bad hops in this series have been hit out toward the second baseman. Last ball is too high, 1-0. 13-0. Tigers ahead. Cardinals have 2 out. Lou Brock at first. Kaline and Brock now are the only players in the series who have hit safely in each game. High fly in the shallow right. McAuliffe is out for it. The Tiger second baseman puts it away to retire the side, and McLain has shut him out for 6. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, 1 left. At the end of 6, the score: the Tigers 13 and the Cardinals nothing. Wayne Granger is coming on to pitch for the Cardinals. He'll be their 6th pitcher. They have that monitor down in the Tiger dugout, and Lolich has been fiddling around with it for a couple of innings, having some trouble getting it to work. Now it's working, we understand. And here's a little... They put a message on it.
Yeah, we had a message just for Mickey to see down there. It says, "I love you," signed Bob Gibson.
What's that he says?
I said, "Where's the message at?" They're taking it off now.
Denny McLain will start it off with the Tigers in the 7th. If you joined us late, the Tigers scored 2 in the 2nd, 10 runs in the 3rd, tying an all-time World Series record. 15 men going to the plate. Another run in the 5th. Kaline is homered in the 5th. Northrup a grand slammer in the 3rd. McLain is hit into a double play, sacrificed, and struck out. Strike to McLain. Wayne Granger, his first series game. He won 4, lost 2 during the season. An earned run average of 2.25. He's 24. He was born and still lives in Springfield, Massachusetts. Strike 2. 0-2. So it's been Washburn, Jaster, Willis, Hughes, Carlton, and now Granger. Fouls are back. No balls, 2 strikes to Denny McLain. Outside, 1-2. One-two pitch. Strikes out on a curve. One down. Dick McAuliffe had 2 walks in the 3rd inning. He struck out twice also. And with those 2 bases on balls, 1 intentional, he tied a series record done only once previously by that slugger, Lefty Gomez, the former Yankee pitcher. One of the worst hitting pitchers of all time. You imagine Gomez walking twice in an inning? Foul ball back. He's been here around the series.
Whoever that pitcher was against him should be investigated.
Tigers are leading 13-0 in the 7th. 1 away, bases empty. We're right now at the top of the Tiger batting order.
What an entertaining man, that Gomez, Curt.
A ball, I always liked his quip at the end of his career that I'm throwing harder than I ever did, only the ball is getting up there twice as slow. A 1-1 pitch. Look out. Olaf jackknifing back. 2 balls, 1 strike. It was Gomez who, in the pressure of a World Series, stopped to watch an airplane fly over Yankee Stadium. Kept the batter and everybody waiting. The 2-1 pitch. 3-1. Tigers have received 6 walks in the game. The College series average right now is 261. Oh, he's on. That's his 3rd walk in the game, the 7th for the Tigers. Mickey Stanley will be moving in. He's fly to right, single, wrapped into a force play and grounded out. One more walk by McAuliffe in the game. He'll tie a record of 4 walks in the game. 1 away, runner on first. A ball. Al Kaline on deck. Quiet Cardinal crowd. One and one, much like that Tiger crowd last Sunday when the Cardinals won 10-1.
Yeah, you can't get too excited when your home team's 13 runs behind, Curt.
Fouls it off. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
I will say you have proved yourself a prophet. You predicted in our conversation that you thought it would be a 7-game series.
Al Kaline on deck. You know, I was right once. There's a ground ball to short. Maxwell plays it to Javier. His quick relay to first. They've got a double play. And the Tigers are out in the 7th. No runs, no hits, there were no errors, nobody left. At the end of 6 1/2, it's the Tigers 13, the Cardinals nothing. Pause briefly for station identification. Curt Gowdy, Harry Caray, Tony Kubek. Light rain starting to fall in St. Louis. And Orlando Cepeda will start it off for the Cardinals. He'll be followed by Tim McCarver and Mike Shannon. Denny McLain pitching a shutout. A high fly again to Kaline. And there's 1 out. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 put out for Kaline in right field. Let's take a look at a record for putouts by a right fielder in a World Series game.
It proves that McLain has his stuff, which is obvious anyhow. That high, good riding fastball of his, making him hit the ball in the air.
Tim McCarver is lined to right, struck out. 13-0. Tigers ahead. The line shot. Kaline coming on. He can't get that one. Fields it on a hop. A single for McCarver. That's the fourth hit for the Cardinals. Yes, Kaline has tied a record. 7 putouts by a right fielder. John Murray of the Giants in 1912. Miller of the A's in 30. Ray Blades, the Cardinals in 1930. Oliva, the Twins in 1965. No balls, 1 strike. That's 6. Let's double check that. 1 more and he ties it. No balls, 2 strikes. Carver at first, 1 down. Shannon fouls it back, 0-2. Denny McLain's father was an insurance salesman who got McLain interested in 2 things as a youngster: playing the organ and playing baseball. And they're both paying off for him. McLain's father used to give organ lessons on the side to his son and other people. Foul ball. And today, Denny is playing the right tune.
And I bet his father-in-law, Louis Boudreau, is mighty happy today because I know how much good-natured kidding he's been taking about Denny during this series.
No balls, 2 strikes to Shannon. 1 out, McCarver at first. Just missed that corner. Umbrellas are up, light rain falling. We had rain off and on all morning. The game was delayed about 10 minutes from starting. The infield is starting to become dampened down. A 1-2 pitch. Ground ball in the hole. Nice stop by Stanley's throw is in the right field. McCarver getting up, going to third, and in the second is Shannon. Kaline pegs it into freehand at the plate. This is the first time the Cardinals have had a man to third. It's an infield hit for Shannon. An error on Stanley, who's thrown to second.
I think that's only the second error by Stanley in the series, and each time it's been after he's made a fine play to his right. And both have been sort of tick-tacky errors. This time the throw is just a little bit off at second base, where he had no chance to get the runner anyhow.
Javier, slide to right, line to third. Runners on second and third for St. Louis, 1 out. 13-0, Tigers. Gets down to work, holds the runner, fires to first. He's got him. Runners stay 2 ways. Javier and Curt Flood had also hit safely in each game. But they've been blank so far today. Dal Maxville has flied out twice. Catcher John Edwards has come out on the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher if he gets a chance. Fastball is low, 1-0. Lest the Cardinals rally, Game 7 tomorrow. A ball, 2-0. We'll be on at 1:30 with World Series report. That's Eastern Time. It's Lolich against Gibson tomorrow. Things go the way they are right now. There's a fly ball to Kaline. This will tie the record. There's his 7th put out. No runs, 2 hits. There was 1 error and 2 left. At the end of 7, Tigers 13, Cardinals nothing.
We pause now for station identification. This is the CBC television network.
Al Kaline leading off in the 8th inning. Struck out in the 1st, single in the 3rd to knock in a run, single also in the 3rd to drive in another run, and hit a 2-out home run to left field in the 5th. He's knocked in 4 runs in this game. And his average right now, 440 in the series. Wayne Granger pitching for the Cardinals. Kaline, Cash, and Horton. He's hit. And he's hit on the left elbow. Tiger trainer, manager Mayo Smith coming out. Here's a fellow that's always had hard luck with injuries. Every year something's happened to him. He had a fractured bone. He's trying to rub that pain out. That hurts when you get hit on that crazy bone. With this big lead, Tigers right on the bone. May not want that elbow to stiffen up. Well, they're going to leave him in. He's all right. So he's been on base now 4 times in a row. Kaline's now been on base 6 times in his last 7 up. Norm Cash has walked and had 3 hits. Hits it hard to Cepeda. It's a fair ball. Steps on first, and that's it. Going to second is Kaline. 1 down. 13-0. Tigers leading. Top of the 8th. Willie Horton doubled to knock in a run in the 2nd. Walked and had an infield hit in the 3rd. Popped up in the 5th. 2 out of 3. Horton batting .263. Big lead. Tigers right on the bone. May not want that elbow to stiffen up. Well, they're going to leave him in. He's all right. So he's been on base now 4 times in a row. Kaline's now been on base 6 times in his last 7 up. Norm Cash has walked and had 3 hits. Hits it hard to Cepeda. It's a fair ball. Steps on first, and that's it. Going to second is Kaline. 1 down. 13-0. Tigers leading. Top of the 8th. Willie Horton doubled to knock in a run in the 2nd. Walked and had an infield hit in the 3rd. Popped up in the 5th. 2 out of 3. Horton batting .263. And Willie Horton's hit by a pitch ball. Runners on first and second. 3 Tigers have been hit today by pitch balls. They've had 7 walks and 3 hit batsmen. Jim Northrup struck out, hit a grand slammer in the 3rd, flied out in the 3rd. That was the inning. The Tigers had 15 men up, and single to right in the 6th. To the box. So Maxwell for 1 over to first for the double play. 1-6-3 on that one. No runs for the Tigers, no hits, there were no errors, 1 left. At the end of 7.5, Detroit 13, St. Louis nothing. Ray Warner's gone to shortstop for the Tigers. Mickey Stanley to center field. Jim Northrup to left field. This is a defensive change they've been using in the late innings when they've been ahead. And Willie Horton leaves the lineup. Johnny Edwards is now batting for Wayne Granger. Playing high with his fastball, 1-0. One and one. First time we've seen Edwards at the plate. Been an outstanding backup catcher. Hit .239 during the season. Fouls it back, 1-2. He had 3 homers this year and 29 RBIs. The Cardinals bench. One of the big reasons why they've run away with the National League pennant the last 2 years. They're deep in that bench. They can rest their players. Injuries haven't bothered them. Foul ball back. They've got those pinch hitters to come up in the late innings. Edwards played with the Reds in the World Series of 1961. A steady rain coming down. A 1-2 pitch. Struck him out. Well, McLain sailing along here with a 6-hit shutout. Lou Brock is bounced with the pitcher flying out and single. 1 out of 3. World Series average of .500. He came into this game with a lifetime World Series average of .400, which is the highest ever compiled by a player. If he gets another hit in the series, he'll tie an all-time record. It's really raining now. There's a foul over toward the Tiger dugout going out of play. So games 4 and game 6 have been played with bad weather. Oh, it's really raining, and the umpires now have ordered the tarp put on the infield. Many of the fans are heading back under cover. The weather is not the factor here for the Tigers as it was when they were trailing in those early innings in Detroit and it was raining. With that 13-run lead, they've got a different attitude on it.
These teams will be even 2 in winning games and bad weather. The Cardinals had the big lead, as you've indicated, over there in Detroit, and now it's the Tigers with a big lead here in the 8th inning. And it's all going to boil down. Incidentally, Curt, do you realize that since the Cardinals got 3 runs in the first inning Monday, they haven't scored? So with a break in the action here, the score remains Detroit 13, St. Louis nothing.
The ground crew placing the tarp down. The steady rain coming down. We had an historic 3rd inning here. Some of you might have come in late. We'll recap it. An inning that tied a World Series record of 10 runs and tied a record of having the most men go to bat, 15. McCullough started that inning with a walk. Washburn was pitching. Stanley singled. Kaline singled in McCullough. And that was all for Washburn. Jasper came in. Cash singled. Then Horton walked. Then Northrup hit a grand slam home run. Jasper left. In came Willis. Freehan walked. Wirt was hit by a pitch ball. McLain sacrificed him along. Then McCullough came up again and walked for his 2nd time in the inning. Stanley hit into a force play. Kaline's 2nd hit of the inning. A single brought in a run. Cash single to knock in a run. Horton had an infield hit. And Northrup flied out. 10 runs, 15 men to the plate. The Tigers had 2 runs in the 2nd. Kaline hit a home run in the 5th inning, and that's the way it is now. 13-0, Harry.
And it looks again like a 7th game here in St. Louis tomorrow, Curt, with Bob Gibson and Mickey Lolich. Lolich has beaten the Cardinals twice, held them to 1 run his first appearance against them. And, of course, Bob Gibson's allowed only 1 run in the 2 games he has pitched. It's drawing it kind of fine. Anything can happen in one ball game. Of course, Gibson has the great record in World Series for 7th-game victories. Lolich has proven that he can pitch a low-run game against the Cardinals. Anything can happen tomorrow.
And tomorrow, Earl Wilson, according to the Tigers, will be ready. He's had a pulled leg muscle. They've taped that up. And also Joe Sparma. They'll have everybody ready in that bullpen. And, of course, the Cardinals will, too.
The importance of that 5th game Monday afternoon now is particularly magnified, Curt.
We'll be back to Busch Memorial Stadium in St. Louis in 1 minute. Time was called at 3:21 here, St. Louis time. We've had about a 26-minute delay now in this game. The Tigers are ahead 13-0. The Cardinals are batting in the last of the 8th inning with 1 out, nobody on, and the count, no balls, 1 strike to Lou Brock. Denny McLain pitching a shutout so far, coming back after failing twice in the series. Revealed that he'd been pitching with a sore shoulder during the month of September. He had had 5 or 6 X-ray treatments for that shoulder to try and keep it under control. Actually, Dr. Russell Wright, the team physician of the Tigers, explains it. A stretched tendon. McLain had been a real workhorse this year. He'd pitched over 300 innings, pitched tough. He'd won 31 games, and of course, taking his regular turn with 3 days rest. The stretched tendon, which had become inflamed, had no chance to get rested and heal on its own. And they didn't want to give him a cortisone shot unless they had to. But after he had pitched in his second time out in the series, when he was so ineffective, they finally decided to do something about it. And the shot they injected in his shoulder yesterday in Detroit seemed to have worked wonders. He looked like the 31-game winner McLain today. Started a little bit slowly, but picked up, started striking out men. He's been sharp with his control. Although, as Bob Gibson has pointed out, and also McLain himself would point out, when you've got some runs to work on, you don't have to be so fine in those corners. You don't have to be so careful of those hitters, and you can pitch a little freer and easier out there. So he'll have a delay of, 30, 40 minutes if we started to play again, but it's raining very steadily here now. And they just can't take this tarp off right now because if this series goes to 7 games tomorrow, they want this field in some kind of condition. And remembering, it rained most of the morning here today. The weatherman has said tomorrow will be a clear day and a good day in St. Louis. So right now, with a 13-run lead, it's Game 7 tomorrow. Mickey Lolich been announced as the starting pitcher for the Tigers. This is all, of course, unless the Cardinals, and we get back to action here, put on the miracle rally of all time in the World Series. But it'll be Lolich tomorrow against Bob Gibson. Once again, Gibson is being counted on to win the big 7th game for the Cardinals, as he did against the Yankees in '64, as he did against the Red Sox last year. And it's amazing how this series has paralleled last year's series, where the Cardinals had a 3-game-to-1 lead, where they were stopped twice by one pitcher, Jim Lomborg, who alone had kept the Red Sox in the series. Lolich he's been the one pitcher to stop the Cardinals and keep the Tigers in the series, winning the 5th game, as Lomborg won the 5th game last year. And then the two matched up for the 7th game, with Lolich pitching with the exact days of rest. Lomborg had only 2 days rest last year, although Lomborg was tireder going into the series than Lolich was because Lomborg was in a hectic pennant race of 4 teams going right down to the final weekend. Well, with a score 13-0, Tigers ahead. It's still raining. Let's go down to Tony Kubek.
Thank you, Curt. Down in the Tiger dugout, you can see it's pretty well vacant. A few players, a few coaches, a few police officers. Still raining pretty hard down here. Thus far, this ball game has been all the Tigers, as you can well see. 13-0, the big 10-run third inning. They showed what they've been doing all year long, and that is hitting the ball out of the ballpark, putting together rallies, hitting for power. On the other hand, they've also showed why McLain won 31 ball games. He has had better stuff today than he did his previous 2 starts, and apparently the shot in the shoulder, the hypodermic needle that Curt Gowdy talked to you about, did some good. We're just hoping that nothing will be of a permanent nature as far as damage to that shoulder. Manager Mayo Smith told us before the ball game he would not have pitched Denny McLain if he thought there was any chance of injuring his pitching shoulder. So it looks like it'll be the 7th game tomorrow. We can't mention it enough. The confrontation which has been built up between McLain and Gibson have not come off in this World Series as they were expected to. Gibson has been overpowering. Next tomorrow in the 7th game, we'll of course see another confrontation, another great ball game. Mickey Lolich, the left-hander who already has 2 victories, versus Bob Gibson, also a 2-game winner. Gibson, we can expect once again an overpowering pitcher. Mickey Lolich, as he told us just a moment ago, will be tired, but a sinker ball pitcher in the style of Mickey Lolich could be more effective. We remember last year, Jim Lonborg going into that 2nd game had just 2 days rest also. Lonborg was not sharp. His ball was not moving like it could. He was just tired out from the rugged season. Lolich, of course, could be more effective with being a little bit tired. That's the way it stands right down here now, and let's go on back upstairs.
One pitch in this game that we recall when Al Kaline was hit on the left elbow. We wonder how severe that blow was to Kaline, whether his arm would stiffen up on him and whether it would hurt his batting stroke for tomorrow, because he's really come on here. He now has 11 hits. Today he's had 3 hits. He's knocked in 4 runs in this game. He now leads this World Series in runs batted in. He, with 11 hits, Lou Brock has 12. And Brock, of course, had a chance to tie a record the next time he gets a hit. Bobby Richardson holds the series record with 13 hits in a game. And Brock, with tomorrow, could even break it. Of course, he could still break his own stolen base record of 7 stolen bases in a series. So Kaline and Brock now really running for that top player of the series, along with Bob Gibson, who could win his 3rd tomorrow, and Mickey Lolich, who had a chance to win his 3rd. We'll let you do the picking after it's all over tomorrow of who's going to be the outstanding player. 13-0 is the score. The rain is coming down. Let's take a look at some of the action of Game 5, the most exciting game of this series. Here's Lou Brock leading off that game. And he drives a double into the left field corner. As usual, Brock getting the Cardinals off to a quick jump. There's Brock on second. There he is breaking for 3rd, and Curt Flood dumps a single into right field. This scores Brock. And the Cardinals lead 1-0 in the 1st inning. The Tiger fans are unhappy, and then Cepeda slams a home run into the left field seats, and it's the Cardinals 3. And the Tigers nothing in the 1st inning of Game 5. And it looked like the Cardinals were going to romp again. Here in St. Louis again, rain coming down, tarp on the field, time called at 3:21. It is now 3:52 St. Louis time. Going on with our pay package, that's Mickey Stanley getting a triple into the right field corner. After Cash walked, Willie Horton, he was being played well over to left center, slams an extra base hit into the right center field area. Stanley scoring. And with 2 outs, a gamble there as Willie Horton goes into 3rd. And now Jim Northrup, a bad hop. That was a big break for the Tigers, that bad hop off the glove of Javier. Horton scored, and it's a 1-run ball game at this time in Game 5, with the Cardinals leading 3-2. This was the only close game we've had in this series. The Cardinals have won 4-0, 7-3, and 10-1. The Tigers have won 8-1, and they're leading here 13-0 today. Now it's Al Kaline up. This has been the biggest hit in the series for the Tigers with the bases loaded. Or that's the pitcher, Lolich. And that, by the way, we'll talk about that when Roger Maris and Lou Brock come in. Mickey Lolich single with 1 out. And now here's Al Kaline up in the 7th inning. The Tigers are trailing by 1 run. The bases are loaded. Kaline has been hitting quite a bit to center and to right center in this series. Loops it out into right center. That scores 2 runs for the Tigers. Lolich in the score. The go-ahead run right in behind him, Dick McAuliffe, and now the Tigers lead by a score of 4-3. These are taped highlights of Game 5, and those Tiger fans, of course, went crazy. They hadn't had much to cheer about at Detroit. And Cash drills one into right field, which gave Lolich an insurance run to work with, and that's the way it wound up in Game 5, the game that sent the Tigers back here to St. Louis for Game 6. Roger Maris, who is retiring at the end of this World Series, the all-time home run hitter in one season of baseball, who came over here to St. Louis and found a real home for himself, led last year's series in RBIs, and winds up an illustrious career. And, of course, the fantastic Lou Brock, one of the most exciting players in baseball history. We appreciate you fellas coming up here to our NBC booth, and I don't imagine either one of you too happy right now with the score, right?
Well, not right at the present, Curt. We got down a little bit, and we've had a hard time trying to come back.
Lou, how do you feel about it?
Well, I tell you, if 13-run leads is better than being behind 1-0 at this point, I think you can relax more with a 13-run, trailing by 13, than you can with a 1-run lead.
Bob Gibson made a statement, and anybody that's followed baseball knows it. What's it? You lose by 1 or 50 runs, you've lost the ball game, and tomorrow you forget it and start all over again, right?
That's right. It doesn't make any difference, Curt. If you're going to lose, you might as well lose big rather than lose a 1-0 ball game. At least if you lost big, you feel you're out of it.
Lou, how has McLain impressed you today? Has he been sharp?
Well, Curt is perhaps the same as he was this past couple of days. He's throwing the ball to the corners, and as he did before. With a 13-run lead, however, he can afford to make a few more mistakes than he did previously.
You were on first base with the Tigers ahead 13-0. You've stolen 7 bases. You've tied your all-time World Series record. You didn't make any attempt to go. Would you explain that?
Yeah, well, 13-run behind and rainy track, a wet track. Don't see any sense in jeopardizing running to second base.
Well, it's said you're just now coming into your own. You're 29 years old, and you're just maturing, and you have even better years ahead of you. Do you feel that way?
Well, I hope they're right. Of course, you never know, but anytime you put on a uniform, you go out on the field, you try to get everything you got, and of course, I hope whoever made the statement, I hope they're right.
Raj, what about Gibson and Lolich tomorrow? Let's see fellas put on the Miracle Rally.
Well, it ought to be a real good ball game tomorrow. They're both real good pitchers, and they've both got 2 wins under their belt. We hope to win it naturally. We count on Gibby a lot, and it's a crucial game, and Gibby's been good in crucial situations, so we're looking forward to him to take it now.
Harry, come on down here a minute. I want to turn the mic over to your own broadcaster, Harry Caray. I'll slip out here. I'm sure you can ask these fellows some questions. You live with them.
Well, fine. Thank you very much, Curt. But I tell you, they're taking the cover off the field, and we're not going to have time for any more interviews up here. Raj, thanks for coming up. Lou Brock, likewise. Tim McCarver. These ball players, of course, have to return down to the field now. Thanks so much for coming up here.
Thank you, Harry.
Good. You saw and heard from Roger Maris, Lou Brock, Tim McCarver, but now they're taking the cover off the field, and the ball players must return to their dugouts. There's the commissioner of baseball, William Eckert, along with umpire Doug Harvey, talking things over. The rain has stopped, and the forecast was that the rain would last only 20 minutes. I think they just about hit it on the nose. The score hasn't been changed any. It's still 13-0 in favor of the Tigers. And we have to cut short the interview with Bob Gibson downstairs, but he is ready, as I'm sure you could tell, as is Mickey Lolich, for the decisive 7th game tomorrow afternoon. Curt, the cover's off the field, and the rain has stopped. The Cardinals will get a chance to bat in the bottom of the 8th and the top of the 9th. Tim McCarver was kidding me, Curt. He said, gee, I caught a terrible game today, meaning that he was calling wrong pitches. of course, all in jest, as the Tigers pounded the ball for 12 hits and 13 runs so far. And the Cardinals themselves, just like the Tigers, look forward to tomorrow. Both teams are confident. The players are relaxed. I think it's going to be a tremendous wind-up to a fine series.
We have had a 37-minute delay so far. McLain will be given time to warm up again. With a score 13-0, the Tigers. And when the Cardinals come back to bat, there will be one out, nobody on. Lou Brock will be the batter, and the count to him is no balls and one strike. But we'll be back to Busch Memorial Stadium in St. Louis in 1 minute. They have dumped the water off the tarp in the left field. Being pulled back now, and will be rolled and removed. And of course, we've had two big stories in this game. McLain coming back, a bad shoulder after cortisone injection yesterday in that shoulder in Detroit. He's pitched a shutout so far. And the big 10-run third inning by the Tigers, which tied an all-time World Series record of runs scored in a single inning and tied the record of the most men going to the plate. In that inning, McAuliffe walked, Stanley single, Kaline single. Kaline single brought in a run, Cash single to drive in a run, Horton walked, then Jim Northrup hit a grand slam homer, Freehan walked, Wirt was hit by a pitch ball, McLain had a sacrifice, McAuliffe walked again, Stanley grounded into a force play. Kaline had his second hit and second RBI of the inning. Cash had his second hit of the inning, a single. Willie Horton an infield hit, and Northrup ended the big inning by flying to left field. It takes you back to Saturday, October 12th, 1929, when the A's were trailing the Cubs 8-0. And the A's came up with 10 runs. You remember that great A's team of Connie Mack, one of the finest Major League Baseball teams of all time. They had Bishop at second, Hawes in center, Cochran the catcher, Simmons in left field, Cochran a Hall of Famer, Simmons a Hall of Famer, Jimmy Fox at first, Bing Miller in right, Jimmy Dykes at third, Boley at short. That was the lineup that day that scored the 10 runs. And the Tigers today became the first team in the World Series to score 10 runs in an inning since 1929. The Tigers are out in front of their dugout, loosening up. They'll have to take the field. And McLain will have to warm up again. Here's the most controversial play of the series, Harry. Game 5.
See if that plate is blocked off as Brock tries to score. Did his foot get in there or not? That's what the big argument rages about. Brock says yes. The umpire said no, and so did the Tigers. Here is the play again, Curt.
This was in the 5th inning. Javier singled. Willie Horton picked the ball up, fired to the plate. And it looks like his foot just missed the plate in front.
It looked like Freehan, who was a fine football player in college, used that ability as he put on blocked the plate beautifully.
And it's interesting, many wondered why Brock didn't slide.
You know, Curt, I've read a lot of things about that. I bet you were 16 times during the season that Brock scored standing up on that kind of a play. His theory is that if you slide, you're more easily blocked off the plate because you can only slide one straight way. And that if you go in standing up, even though the plate is blocked, you can pick a corner of the plate that is unexposed and jab it with your foot. Whereas if you slid, you'd be completely blocked off. That's his theory, and he has made it stand up all year long, so you can certainly not fault him during the World Series. A play in which he himself still claims that his toe touched the plate before Freehan was able to knock him away. A great base runner. It was amazing that the play was that close when the ball was hit. it looked like the run would be able to score easily, but Horton, as you recall, watching the replay, fielding the ball, fielded it on the run, and I don't think he's gotten as much credit on the play, perhaps, Curt, as he should have, because he charged the ball and made a perfect throw.
There's McLain now starting to warm up. We'll see how this delay has affected him, remembering that he's been ailing with a bad shoulder, which hasn't looked too bad today.
No, I should say not. The Cardinals talking to them while we're downstairs. All admit that he threw much better today, and of course, the fact that he has had a big lead all the way hasn't hurt at all. Doesn't hurt any pitcher to be out in front with a lot of runs. In fact, runs, of course, are a pitcher's best friend. And but there's no doubt that he threw much more freely today than he had previously in the series. So apparently his arm had bothered him before and did not today.
And he's out there warming up with this delay now of 45 minutes in the sixth game of the World Series. The Tigers ahead 13-0. They've had 12 hits and 1 error. The Cardinals have had no runs, 6 hits and 1 error. The Cardinals have really had only 1 threat. In the 7th, they had runners on 2nd and 3rd. 1 out, but Javier bounced to 3rd, and Maxwell flied to right to end the inning. That's the only real jam that McLain has been in. And when Maris and Brock were up here, they weren't too happy, as you could expect, behind 13 runs.
But they still had their sense of humor. McCarver was saying, well, we got to get this inning in. We got to get this inning in. He says Sunday they delayed it for an hour and a half or so. He says we might score 15 runs in the 8th inning. You know, the sense of humor of these ball players is really a refreshing thing, Curt. Even when the score is against them, and sometimes even usually when it's against them, they come up with some of their wittiest remarks. And there's no pressure at all in either dugout, I'll tell you that. And the game tomorrow should be a dandy with Bob Gibson, who's ready for the assignment, faces Mickey Lolich, who's also ready for the assignment.
Well, even when the Tigers seemed to be done after they were trailing 3-1, they were still loose. They still appeared confident. And now, if McLain holds a 13-run lead with 1 out, nobody on in the 8th inning, it's down to 1 game tomorrow. Lolich, the left-hander, pitching with 2 days rest against Bob Gibson, who'll be pitching with 3 days rest.
Curt, when we talked to Gibson, you notice that I brought up scouting reports. He doesn't believe in them too much. And he was mentioning that he's been pitching the Tiger hitters away, which, according to scouting reports, is what they like to hit, pitches away from the plate. But, of course, when you're as overpowering as he is, you can even pitch to hitter's strength and retire them.
Here's a weather report for tomorrow. The weatherman has been very accurate during this series. He called for rain in Detroit Sunday. He was right. He called for a clear, bright day in Detroit Monday. He was right. The weatherman said it would rain here today. Once again, correct. And the St. Louis Weather Bureau says tomorrow, clearing. Well, this is for tonight. Clearing and cooler tonight. Low tonight about 45 degrees. Tomorrow, fair to partly cloudy, continued cool. The high will be around 60. But it'll be no rain tomorrow.
It would appear to be starting its clearing right now, Curt. At any rate, the rain has completely stopped, and no more is expected the rest of the day. So the final inning and a half or so of this ball game will be played, and there go the Tigers onto the field now.
And when McLain says he's ready to go, the game will begin. We'll be back to Busch Memorial Stadium in St. Louis in 1 minute. Count of 1 strike. A 49-minute delay. 49 minutes. Strike 2. Once again, Brock in this game has bounced to the pitcher, fly to right, and singled. Adding 500 in the series. McLain has struck out 5 today. He hasn't walked a batter. His 2-strike pitch. His curve is low. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Curt Flood is on deck. Struck him out on a high fastball. Number 6 for McLain. Curt Flood is lined to short, popped up, struck out. Cardinals have 2 down here in the 8th inning. Nobody on. High and away for a ball. Fouls it back. 1-1 to Flood. Flood batting .261 in this series. Play him straight away. Curve dropped in. Strike 2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Curt Flood, the most consistent hitter for the Cardinals all year. There's a fly ball out to Al Kaline. And that's it. The Cardinals are down 1-2-3 in the 8th, and at the end of 8 innings, the score is the Tigers 13, the Cardinals nothing. Mel Nelson becomes the 7th Cardinal pitcher of this game. I want to remind you that next Sunday, NBC Television will present AFL football in the first games of their weekly Sunday doubleheader. Houston Oilers will be playing the Boston Patriots at Boston, and Denver will be at New York, Shea Stadium against the New York Jets. In the second game, it'll be San Diego at Oakland and Cincinnati at Kansas City. The second game will be out in Oakland with Kyle Rote. It should be quite a game. San Diego Chargers and the Oakland Raiders. 7 pitchers by the Cardinals, 8 used by one club in a game is the record. The Reds against the Yankees in 1961. And the Cardinals last year against the Red Sox. Bill Freehan finally broke through with a base hit in the series. He singled in the 2nd, he walked in the 3rd, he grounded out in the 4th, and he flied out in the 6th. Well, he's had 1 hit at 19 times. 13 runs, 12 hits, 1 error for the Tigers. No runs, 6 hits, 1 error for the Cardinals. Low and inside for a ball. This ballpark's a lot different looking now than it was when the game started. A lot of people have left. A high fly in the shallow left. Maxwell going out, the shortstop calling for it. 1 down. Maxwell now has played in 20 World Series games and has not made an error. Don Word has walked, been hit by a pitch ball, popped up and fouled out. One-sided game and the rain drove many people home. Strike, 0-1. Denny McLain due up next. A ball, 1-1. See, this ballpark was completely jammed at the start of the game. 2-1. The 9th inning. Tigers have 1 out, nobody on. He pops it up. This will be handled by Shannon, the 3rd baseman. 2 down. There's a view of the empty seats here now. That was quite a steady rain, Harry.
Yes, it was. That might be another record we can refer to. Most empty seats.
Denny McLain takes a strike. He got a hand from some of the fans. He's hit into a double play, sacrifice, struck out twice. It's the shutout so far. Fouls it back, 0-2. Good boy. Tigers leading 13-0. Well, it didn't take Nelson long to get the Tigers out in the top of the ninth. So at the end of 8.5, the score, the Tigers 13 and the Cardinals nothing. Roger Maris has grounded out at a bad hop single and has popped up. Foul back. The biggest shutout score in World Series history. Yankees 12, Pirates nothing at Pittsburgh in the sixth game, 1960. Right now, the Tigers are leading 13-0. The 0-1 pitch. Missing that inside corner, 1-1. Cepeda's on deck and in the Cardinal. Slow curve, get out into left center, jumping into a base hit. Harris is on. The seventh hit for the Cardinals, they've all been singles. And Cepeda comes up, he's had one hit and 3 times. Only twice in this game have the Cardinals had their leadoff man on in an inning. Strike to Cepeda. Detroit 13, St. Louis nothing. Last of the ninth inning. One and one. Denny McLain, as usual, with that cap tugged down over his eyes. There's a base hit to left. Maris is stopping at second. Peck comes in there from Jim Northrup. Cepeda's on first. Nobody out, and I don't care where you are, what part, a hometown baseball fan never gives up, and these Cardinal fans are now starting to root. There's McCarver up. He's had one hit and 3 times. A breeze has sprung up now and is blowing from home plate out towards second. We had no breeze when this game started. Ball one. One ball, no strikes. Fouls the curve off. That hit Bill Freehand. 1-1. Maris at second. Cepeda at first. Nobody out. Last of the ninth. Freehand was hit on the throwing hand by that foul ball. They put the spray, that freezes and takes the pain away. You ever see an old catcher's hand?
Old Gowdy Street used to say, Curt, that when two catchers shook hands, you had to call a plumber to get them separated.
One ball, one strike. A high fly, shallow right. Norm Cash, they call the infield fly rule. The runners advance at their own risk. The batter was automatically out. Mike Shannon is hit into a double play, struck out in singles. Gibson had a shutout in the opening game. McLain's trying to get a shutout in this one. Tigers 13, Cardinals nothing. And there's another pop-up on the infield, and once again the infield fly rule is called. The batter's automatically out. 2 down. The last Tiger pitcher to pitch a World Series shutout was Bobo Newsom. Old Bobo. in 1940 when he beat the Reds 8-0. Alan Roth, our statistician today, and our production manager again has been Jim O'Gorman. Two down, runners on first and second. Julian Javier. A strike. He and Flood had hit safely in every game up until this one. They've been blank. Flood's gone 0 for 4 today. And Javier's 0 for 3. Kaline and Brock have hit safely in every game. Foul back. McLain is 1 strike away now. 0-2 to Javier. Two down, runners on first and second. Line drive, and McLain loses his shutout. Coming in to score is Norris. Now 13-1. And Javier has had a base hit in all 6 games. Now Maxwell, still looking for that first series hit. Well, the Cardinals have a run on 3 hits in this inning. 13-1 now, the Tigers. A ball to Maxwell. Gagliano's come out on deck. The bat for the pitcher, Nelson. There's Javier on first. Cepeda's on second. 2 down. A 1-0 pitch. Ball 2. Phil Gagliano. Two balls and no strikes. Fires a fastball through for a strike. 2-1. Doing these World Series games on the NBC Radio Network has been Ernie Harwell, Jack Buck, and Pee Wee Reese. I understand they've done a great job. Foul back, 2-2. Ernie teams up with George Kell and the Tigers, and Jack Buck here with Harry Caray and the Cardinals. And Pee Wee with NBC Sports. 2-2 to Del Maxville. McLain trying to get this last out. He's got it. That's it. And we're going to the 7th game tomorrow. Denny McLain coming back, winning this one 13-1. In the 9th inning, 1 run for the Cardinals. 3 hits, no errors. They left 2. 13 runs, 12 hits, 1 error for the Tigers. 1 run, 9 hits, 1 error for the Cardinals. The winning pitcher, Denny McLain, and the losing pitcher was Ray Washburn. And now here to wrap it up for you, Harry Caray.
This ball game was settled, of course, in the 3rd inning. An explosive, record-tying 10-run inning by the Detroit Tigers. The inning started with a base on balls. Before it was all over, there were 7 hits, one of them a grand slam home run by Jim Northrup. With that kind of a lead, Denny McLain, pitching great baseball, scores his first victory of the series, 13-1.
There it is, Gibson and Lolich tomorrow, and this game is authorized under television rights granted by the Commissioner's Office solely for the entertainment of our audience. And any publication, reproduction, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Commissioner's Office is prohibited. The 6th game of this 1968 World Series has been brought to you by...
tune in tomorrow when the 1968 World Series continues into the 7th game with the Detroit Tigers versus the St. Louis Cardinals. Be sure to check your local listings for the time in your neighborhood. This is the CBC Television Network.
And now it's time for that very special part of What's My Line, our mystery guest, panel of the blindfolds in place.
They certainly are.
All right, mystery challenger, would you enter and sign in, please? I don't think there's any doubt that our mystery challenger has arrived and is now seated beside me. I'll remind you, panel, it's one question at a time. I'll give you 2 minutes to try and establish our mystery guest's identity, and let's begin the questioning with Joanna Barnes.
Are you in show business?
Yes.
Godfrey? Let me say this in answer to your question, Joanna, that indeed our mystery guest is in show business. However, there is another occupation for which I think the mystery guest is even better known for than show business. Godfrey.
Well, show business and better known. Are you in politics like everybody else?
No, sir.
No, that's Arlene.
Are you in the sports world?
Yes.
Soupy.
Would you be a member of either one of the teams that played in the World Series?
Quite possibly.
I would say yes. Joanna Barnes.
Boy, oh boy. Am I a loser?
I'm a loser right now.
I pass. I know nothing about baseball. Are you passing, Godfrey?
No. Let's see now. Break it down. Do you throw the ball? I know a lot about sports.
I would say that there have been times when our mystery challenger has been known to throw the ball a bit. Arlene.
Primarily.
Well,
Primarily, I would say, too.
There are 3 names, and I'm so stupid, I'm not going to get... There's a Gibson and a Lovich and a... I don't know, you play either the ukulele or the guitar. As well as baseball, but I'm just a loser at knowing the names.
I'm neither one of them.
Neither the ukulele or the guitar.
Oh, it's my turn?
So we're going to give you a no and go to Soupy.
I think that it's probably the greatest pitcher in baseball of today and quite a few years back and ahead and the whole thing like that. Is that the 31-game winner, Denny McLain?
Yes.
I was in Detroit 2 weeks ago doing an album for Motown, and they're just still wild.
The town is still going. The town's still a little bit crazy.
I understand that they told me that the night that you all came back from St. Louis, they had 100,000 people on the runway at the airport that they had to divert the plane.
Right. What happened, some United Airline plane had landed, and the people thought it was us, and surrounded the plane, and the people were stuck in that plane for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it let us go to another airport. You know.
I don't know about baseball. I'll tell you what I know about sports. I was introduced to Sandy Koufax, and I said, tall, thin, do you play basketball? Do you pitch?
Yes, I do.
Good.
Well, let me tell you that Denny has a number of honors besides winning 31 games this year. He won the Player of the Year award for 1968 and the very coveted Cy Young award for the best pitcher in the American League. And the reason, Joanna, I answered yes, of course, you do have your own combo. You play organ.
Right.
Don't you? And aren't you on tour now, Denny?
Yeah, we've got a week off this week, but right around the first of the year again, we go back to Las Vegas at the Riviera.
Well, how is it opening at Las Vegas compared to pitching, one of the World Series games?
I was scared to death.
At Vegas or at the series?
At Vegas.
At Vegas.
It was the most exciting, yes, but I was scared to death.
You were with Shecky Green.
I was Shecky Green,
yeah.
right.
Are the other members of the combo also in sports, or are they musicians?
No, they're just musicians from Detroit.
Well, Denny, good luck to you, and I hope next season it's 32.
Thank you very much.
Denny McLain, thank you very much.